Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really incredible, highly distilled narrative from our source text about a deeply revered figure, Prophet Ibrahim. What's so fascinating here is how the text takes an entire lifetime, literally decades of monumental trials, and condenses it into just a few core defining moments. We're looking at a journey that absolutely pushes the limits of human endurance and belief. So, let's get right to it. The source text actually plunges us straight into this super dramatic setting. It says, "In a world drowned in idol worship, one man stood alone for the truth." Just imagine that for a second. Imagine the sheer isolation of being the only person to stand for the truth. The imagery here is incredibly stark. It describes a scenario where the entire known world is completely submerged, like completely drowned in one singular way of thinking. And right in the middle of that massive flood, one person decides to stand apart. It's just a staggering picture of solitary conviction. So, that brings us to Section 1, A World of Idols, Standing Alone for the Truth. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast the source presents. On one side, you have the entire world drowned in idol worship, which really represents this crushing, overwhelming weight of societal conformity, versus on the other side, just one man, standing alone for the truth. The odds stacked against him here are, well, they're astronomically high. It's a pure distillation of one individual holding on to a truth against an entire civilization. There is absolutely no middle ground presented here. Moving right along to Section 2, The Fire of Namrud, Breaking the Idols. Let's trace this rapid escalation of events because it moves fast. Step 1, standing alone for the truth. That's an internal, philosophical stance, right? But it doesn't stop there. Step 2, physically breaking the idols. Now this is direct action against the established order. And that action leads directly to Step 3, being thrown into Namrud's fire. The text explicitly links these events. You see, you don't just challenge a drowning world and walk away scot-free. The consequence here is a terrifying, immediate, and very literal threat to his life. Yet the fire could not burn him. This minimalist line completely upends everything we know about the physical world. I mean, you have certain death, a blazing fire explicitly designed to destroy him, and yet nothing. This introduces the astonishing, totally reality-bending concept of divine miracles right into the heart of this historical account. Our source text steps back for a second to break down what this unbelievable moment actually represents. His survival wasn't just some physical anomaly. It was a profound demonstration of three core elements, all woven together: sacrifice, faith, and miracles. He had to be willing to make the absolute ultimate sacrifice, leading entirely on pure faith, which in turn unlocked the miracle. You really can't separate these three concepts. They're the fundamental bedrock of his survival. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds. Babylon to Mecca, a geographical shift. So this is a chronological journey mapped out directly for us. We start in Babylon, then we hit time point 2, the blazing fire of Namrud, which is the ultimate physical threat. But surviving that inferno wasn't the end of the story. The journey literally moves across the map to Makkah. And what waits there? Time point 4, the greatest test. The text brilliantly shows how overcoming a literal blazing fire actually only paved the way for an even more intense, though completely different, kind of trial. Which brings us to Section 4, a father's greatest test, the ultimate sacrifice. And this brilliantly illustrates a staggering duality in Prophet Ibrahim's story. On one hand, you have him surviving the blazing fire of Namrud, facing down a whole empire at a deadly inferno. On the other hand, facing the greatest test a father could ever face. A blazing fire is objectively terrifying for sure, but the internal agony of a father's ultimate test, that requires a completely different type of courage. It asks us to really consider, what is truly the harder fire to walk through? Finally, Section 5, the legacy of Tawheed, more than just history. So the crucial point is this quote right here. This is not just history, this is the legacy of Tawheed. This line anchors everything we've just unpacked. The intense isolation in Babylon, the breaking of the idols, the miraculous survival in the fire, the huge journey to Makkah, and that agonizing emotional test of a father. All of it funnels down into this singular, enduring conclusion. It is a living legacy, not just some historical footnote. And let's clearly define exactly what that legacy is. Tawheed, the absolute truth of standing alone against idol worship to uphold faith. This is the absolute culmination of Ibrahim's life work. Every sacrifice, every miracle, every single step from Babylon to Makkah was in service of this exact unwavering principle. It's the unbroken thread connecting a man standing alone in a drowned world to the ultimate definition of pure faith. Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to ponder. If history meticulously remembers the man who stood entirely alone against a drowning world and a blazing fire, how will it remember his legacy of Tawheed? What does that level of absolute, unshakable conviction demand of those who study it today? Thank you so much for exploring this incredible text with me. Keep reflecting on these immense ideas, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.